Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you're here because as you can see, I'm in a totally new space and this is my new office / filming space, and I'm so excited because now I have a dedicated spot to make videos for you guys. So I'm hoping that'll help me be more consistent and put out more content for you guys so you have more to watch. I'd love to give a shout out to my boyfriend Mac. He built me this desk. He did such a great job. It's perfect. I love it. He put a lot of time and energy and effort into it, so I'm so thankful. It came out perfect and exactly the way I wanted. I think when the room's done, I might do a little tour for you guys if you want to see it. I'm still waiting for a couple things to come in, and I need some more artwork on the walls. I'm not really a decorator, so if you guys have any ideas, you're probably better at this than I am, so let me know what you think I should put up on my walls, if anything. And if you know any artists or someone who might be able to make me something cool for my wall, please let me know in the comments. Make sure you guys also follow me on Instagram because I asked a question on which video you guys wanted me to film today, which is why I'm doing this 7 concealed carry tips video. That's the one that you guys wanted to see the most. Make sure you're also subscribed to my channel so you don't miss any future videos. So let's get started with my 7 concealed carry tips. These are tips that I've just gathered over years of carrying myself, so I want to share them with you guys in case you're new or these are things you haven't thought of before. So let's get started with tip number 1. My first tip is to stay out of sketchy situations and places. I think that when people start to carry, sometimes they have this mindset that if something happens to me, I'll be able to deal with it now. So they might put themselves in situations that they wouldn't otherwise put themselves into. For example, I would not normally go running by myself at night. Before I carried, I wouldn't do it. So now that I have a gun, I wouldn't put it in my mind that if I go running at night and someone attacks me, I'll be able to defend myself, because that's not something I would normally do. And I don't want to get into a situation where I need to defend myself if I don't have to. Think about where you're going and what you're doing, and just because you have a gun, that doesn't mean that you should put yourself in a situation where you will need to use it. Tip number 2 is to know your use of force laws. And I've mentioned this in previous videos, but I just want you guys to know how important this part is. A lot of people will take a basic safety course and then get licensed and start carrying a gun. There are rules that you need to follow. You can't use a gun in every situation that calls for self-defense. Sometimes you can use a gun, sometimes you have to use less than lethal force. And there's a lot that goes into that. So I recommend taking a class or 2 or 3, take as many classes as you can. I took a couple classes that are specific to the laws in my state. One great book that you can read is The Law of Self-Defense. That's this one right here. It's by Andrew Branca. I really recommend this book. I don't know if there's a newer edition. This is the 3rd edition, but I'll find the newest one and I'll link it below if you guys want to buy it and read it. This has laws that are specific to every state. There's an index in the back where you can look up specific laws like defense of property, use of force in defense of others, like so many different things, and it goes state by state, so you can highlight your own state's laws and start to really learn about what is okay in your state when it comes to self-defense. It's so important to know the rules so that good guys don't end up in jail because they made a mistake due to a lack of education. Tip number 3 is to make sure that you're practicing your draw regularly. If you can't get your gun out when you need it, it does not matter how good of a shot you are. You need to be able to draw your gun from whichever holster you're carrying. If you carry the same holster every day, use that holster in your practice. If you carry a few different holsters every day, make sure you're practicing out of those holsters. Hi, my girl. Oh, my angel. You want to practice too? Oh, thank you. Okay, enough. Good girl. If you need help practicing your draw, my boyfriend and I made a great video on how to do it, so please make sure you go check it out. You can see how to practice in the best way to prepare for a gunfight if you ever need to be in. Okay, you want to say hi? Come here. Oh my goodness, she's getting so big. This is Mila. Yes, that's you. Oh, I know, she's the cutest. Tip number 4 is to always carry extra rounds. I live in Massachusetts, and in Massachusetts, we're limited to 10-round magazines, unless you have a pre-ban magazine. but typically you're gonna be carrying up to 10 rounds in a magazine, plus 1 in the chamber. So that's 11 rounds that you can carry in your gun. And if you're not carrying extra rounds, you'll have 11 rounds. Typically it takes up to 3 shots to stop 1 bad guy, and we miss a lot. Like statistically, you're gonna miss the majority of your shots. So with how bad we do under stress and how many shots it takes to stop 1 bad guy, you definitely need to carry extra rounds. What if there's more than 1 bad guy? What if you miss all your shots and then you can't reload? It's just, the thought of that happening to me just terrifies me. So always carry at least 1 extra magazine. I usually carry my smallest magazine in my gun, which is my 7-round magazine. And then I'll carry a larger magazine, like an 8 or a 10-round magazine as my extra, because this just conceals better when I'm carrying it in the gun. But an extra magazine, it doesn't matter if it's a little bit longer. You can usually conceal them really easily. My favorite way to carry an extra magazine, I'm gonna kick you out. My favorite way to carry an extra magazine is in a Neo mag. It looks like this, and I did a review video on this thing. I love it. It's one of the best things I ever bought because I don't like to wear a belt. So this is the best way that I've found to carry an extra magazine. If you guys want to check out that video, I show you all the details and how it works. But basically, it's got a magnet and a clip. And it sticks to your magazine like that, does not come off, and then you stick it in your pocket and you can just draw your magazine out and this stays in your pocket. So if you don't like wearing a belt and you don't really have another way to carry a magazine, I don't recommend just throwing it in your pocket because it's gonna get turned around and you want it to face the same way every time you draw it. So this is the Neo Mag. I'll link it down below. Great product, great company, made in America, so check them out. But if you do wear a belt, you can carry in something like this, a little mag pouch that clips to your belt. If you carry a revolver, you might want to use something like this that clips to your belt. Just make sure you're carrying extra rounds. It's important because statistically, 10 is not enough. Because it's better to have them and not need them than need them and not have them. Okay, tip number 5 is to understand the realities of a gunfight. And how do you do that without being in one? Well, watch videos. There's a great channel on YouTube, one of my favorite channels that I recommend to all my students, called Active Self-Protection. I watch the videos all the time. My boyfriend and I send them back and forth whenever we see a new one or a really good one. John Korea will show you a video of a real life situation that happened. It's not always guns, sometimes it's knife attacks or robberies, different things. And he'll show you the actual video of the event and then go over lessons that are to be learned from them. Things that were good and things that were bad. And it's such a helpful channel to get you to see what actually happens in a gunfight. So I'm gonna link his channel below. I definitely recommend you check him out. Active Self-Protection. I've been watching his channel for years. It's amazing. He puts out new videos every day. Understanding the realities of a gunfight means that you understand that it's probably gonna happen in the dark or when it's a little bit dark. It's gonna be really close, probably within 10 feet. It's gonna be fast. You're gonna be moving, the bad guy's gonna be moving. There might be more than one bad guy. So if you think about the way we train at the range, a lot of the times you'll see someone just stand at the table, bring up their gun, shoot the target really slow, and then say like, what a good job I did. And yeah, for target shooting, that's great. But if you're carrying a gun for self-defense, you need to know that gunfights are not like target shooting. It's so different. And that's why it's important to take lots of classes, take defensive shooting classes, find drills online. I've got a couple on my channel that you guys can try at the range. Probably the best kind of practice you can get to put yourself as close to a real gunfight as you can get is something like a simunitions class where you go through a real scenario. You can shoot a real gun, but the cartridges have paint in them. They hurt when you get shot with them, so you're afraid of getting shot by them, but they're not gonna kill you. If you can take a simunitions class or something like that, any sort of defensive training is really good practice so that you can get real practice that will help you if you're ever in a gunfight, God forbid. And on that note, tip number 6 is to try competition. I know it can be scary, especially if you don't have anyone else to shoot with, but so many gun clubs are super friendly. People will want to help you. If you can find like an IPSC competition or a USPSA or 3-gun or IDPA. IDPA is something that I've done here and there. It's really great practice. You basically run through a course of fire that they set up. It's called a stage. So you might have a moving target, you have to engage multiple targets, you have to engage them in a certain order as they appear. You run around, you reload. It's just such good practice. And It'll give you a lot of confidence, and it's also really fun. So if you can find a competition like that, they have them all over the place, so do some Googling. I know you can find one, but they're awesome practice for real life situations rather than just going to the range and shooting at a stationary paper target. And a little note I wanted to add to that, if we had like tip number 6, letter B. Tip 6B is to do those competitions with your carry gun. You might not be as fast as some of the other competition shooters who are shooting like big competition guns or something like that, but it's more important to get good practice with your carry gun than to get a high score, in my opinion. Unless you're just shooting to get a high score, that's fine. But if you're shooting to practice, I definitely recommend shooting with your carry gun. Sometimes it's not possible to shoot out of the holster that you normally carry in with those competitions, so make sure you know what the rules are ahead of time. And finally, my last tip, tip number 7, is my camera moving? My dog is moving. Tip number 7 is to practice situational awareness. This should have probably been tip number 1 because it's so important, but we saved the best for last. Practice situational awareness. That's when you know what's going on in your environment. You know who's there. You know where the exits are. There's so much that goes into situational awareness, and I'd like to do a video on it soon because it's so important, but just being able to avoid a bad situation is the best thing you can do. The best fight is the one that you can totally avoid. We don't want to get into fights. It takes time to learn to pay attention, especially when we live in a society where there's like screens and phones in front of our faces all the time, and we're just typically not paying attention. If you look around on like a bus or the train or just any sort of public space, everyone's usually got their face in their phone and no one's really watching what's going on. Know what's going on around you so that you can avoid any sort of dangerous situation. Just get out of there. I have a bunch more tips, but I don't want this video to be too long, so if you guys like this video, let me know below if you'd like me to do another one, because there's so many things you learn after years of carrying, little tips and tricks and things that I didn't think of before I started carrying that I'd like to share with you guys. So if you like this video, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay safe. Bye!